Thank you, everyone, for attending our workshop meeting on the 12th of November, no less. And needless to say, it's cold out there. I had a few days off. I went to Arizona, and I should have stayed. It's unbelievable. We walk back to 30 or less and leave 80 or more. So maybe that wasn't the best choice I had. So we're meeting at the council chambers at City Hall at 8 North Elmhurst Road in the city of Prospect Heights. And the reason I tell you all this is I know you know where you're at, but we do film everything. It's always good to identify where we're at and why we're here. So we're here for the workshop meeting tonight. We need a quorum to proceed. Call to order, please.
Yes, Mayor. Alderman Williamson?
Here.
Alderman Rosenthal?
Here.
Alderman Ludwigson?
Here.
Alderman Messer?
Here.
And Alderman Dolig is absent by prior arrangement.
And for the record, my name is Nicholas Helmer, and I am the mayor of the city. Let's proceed with the Pledge of Allegiance. And a man in a blue sweater, would you kindly lead us?
Sure.
Purple maybe, right?
Right.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And for the record, sir, your name was or is?
Shelby Mazurson.
Okay, thank you for coming this evening. Thank you for helping us. All right, moving on, the agenda items. Joe, what do we have?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First item of business is consideration of the minutes from the October 22nd, 2018 meeting minutes. We also have executive session minutes review and the August 27th executive session meeting minutes, but not for public release. Do we have any additions or corrections?
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second for roll call, please.
Alderman Messer?
Aye.
Alderman Rosenthal?
Aye.
Alderman Ludwigson?
Aye.
Alderman Williamson?
Aye.
Alderman, what do I miss? Ludwigson, Williamson,
Dolig is
Rosenthal,
absent.
and, pardon?
Dolig is absent.
Dolig is absent, that's correct.
All right, so we had a motion, we had a roll call, and all in favor, please say aye. Nobody wants to say aye.
Aye.
All right, we already had an aye, but let's have two ayes. Okay.
And for presentations, to start off, we thank you. We have the members of the Lions Club with a presentation this evening.
Yes, Al, please.
If they're here to tell everyone that I missed the meeting last Thursday.
We're taking you out of the club.
Never do this again. We'll get punished this way every time.
This past summer, we had a golf outing with the Lions for the Prospect Heights Outreach Program. And what we did is we collected, and with the donation to the outreach program, a check for $6,000 for the outreach program.
All right, everybody face a camera. All right, how about the B camera now? One more
Oh,
picture.
sorry about that.
Don't hide back there, I see you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Wow.
And if I may, I
Thank
just
you.
want to thank the
Wonderful.
Lions for their support, and this goes a long way to help fulfilling our mission and working with our kids and keeping our community a safe place. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you all.
Slide it right
You taking it back?
in. I'm giving you half this one. We want the little one. Thank you, Al.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So PMA is next.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
No, no, I'm right here. Call me later.
The next item of business is a presentation by PMA Financial Network for Money Management of City Investments. Mayor, as you're aware that an ad hoc group has been reviewing our city investment policy and looking at ways that we could improve things. This comes from a committee of Mike Ducharme, Pat Ludvigsen, Rich Tibbetts, and one of the items is to have a firm that would assist us in investment opportunities. So with that, thank you for coming out tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. All right. Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Dan?
My name is Eric Stoltz. I am with PMA Financial Network. We are a public finance and investment firm. We are headquartered in Naperville, Illinois, and just want to thank Michael for having us in today. I want to kind of go over a little bit of information about our organization and some of the investment offerings that we have and how we can partner with the village to help you guys with your investments. So let's walk through the presentation here. Oh, mine, I'm on the wrong thing here. All right.
That looks familiar.
Yeah. All right, here we are. Okay, so a little bit about our firm. Our firm has been serving the public sector for nearly 35 years. Next year will be our 35th year anniversary. We work exclusively with public sector entities. So we have three branches of our company. We have our PMA Financial Network, which is our is the parent company essentially. Prudent Man Advisors is our registered investment advisor, and then Prudent Man Securities is our registered municipal advisor and broker dealer. So we have three lines of business that all align with basically every service that you could potentially need within the public sector when it comes to municipal investments. So again, we work exclusively with public fund investments. We have about 120 employees across 6 or 7 different states. So we are headquartered again in Naperville, Illinois. We have offices in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Florida, and we also manage local government investment pools, over a dozen of them across the country. So we have a long-standing experience within this space for managing public fund investments. So again, as of last quarter, we have assets under administration of almost $27 billion. Majority of that being in Illinois, but again, that's separated between our Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Florida, New York, and Pennsylvania funds that we manage. So flipping to the next page here, this is just, again, kind of a breakdown of all the services that fall under each arm of our business line. Again, PMA Financial Network being the parent company, so local government investment pool administration. We run the largest school investment pool here in Illinois. That is sort of, I would call it like the bread and butter of our business. We work with nearly 700 school districts in Illinois alone. And we have about 130 municipal clients, primarily in the Collier County and Cook County areas here in Illinois. Obviously working to try and service the rest of the state as well. So we have, what happened there? So as far as our investment products go, what Michael really brought me in here today to kind of speak to you about was our fixed rate program, our CD deposit program, which is really our differentiator for all of our from all of our competitors in the space as well. So we're going to kind of get into that as well. But then also some of our value-added services fall under that business line as well, which would be our cash flow management program. We do full budget analysis and breakdown of our clients' cash flows. This is part of one of our free services. If you work with us, it's something that we take the time to do for all of our clients. And then PMA Securities, really that center role is kind of just breaking down all of the trading, our trading platform. So not only do you get access to this network of CD programs, but you also get full access to the secondary market. So we have a full trading team and trading desk support that'll give you access to the secondary market. That's government securities, treasuries, agencies, municipal securities as well, so you don't miss out on that part of the market. And then Prudent Man Advisors, that would be the registered investment advisor with the SEC and FINRA. They are actually stationed out in Minnesota, but they're the ones that actually will run these local government investment pools for us as well. So they actually do the investing and advising on those large pools. And again, they also manage separately managed accounts. So anything from OPEB funds to pension dollars, they will run separately managed accounts for those as well. Flip to the next page here. So when it comes to public funds investing, there's a very, you're very limited as far as what you can do. All of the investments have to be very safe, very secure. So we have basically created our model around the prudent man rule, which in Illinois state statute for investing public funds, you should be investing according to this, this principle, which is a very conservative investment approach. Everything that we do, you will have access to your funds readily, so you'll have liquidity when needed. The key is the preservation of principal, so the safety of those investments, and then obviously to remain competitive, the yield is another important component, but it should really be in that order. The safety, liquidity, and yield is how we should be approaching your investments for the city. So again, all of our products and services, they're all custom to follow Illinois state statute. So we should be following all these Public Fund Investment Act to make sure that we're keeping your funds safe. And kind of that last bullet point here, really the foundation of our firm is based on the idea that back in kind of the late 80s when the fund was, or when the firm was created, the original owner of the firm, he used to be the CFO for Joliet Junior College. And he and his constituents were finding that during the savings and loan crisis, a lot of them were worried about what was going to happen to their funds at their local banks. So he kind of created this analysis to make sure that the banks that he was depositing his college's funds and all his constituents, where they were placing their money, was going to be a safe institution to be keeping their funds in. So we still use that same analysis to this day as part of our rating process when it comes to looking at all of the institutions that we work with, all the big money center banks that we work with. They have to meet these specific credit requirements in order to fall within our CD program. And that's, again, kind of our big differentiator compared to our competitors. So, before we do anything with our clients, we really like to determine, what is the outcome that we're looking for our funds. We realize that we're putting together a solution for our clients. We're running a cash flow analysis. We have to determine what exactly what is the end goal for these particular funds that we're looking to invest. So obviously these kind of fall, depending on the type of reserves or the dollars that we're working with, they can fall under different types of buckets. So typically when we look at short-term operating reserves, we're talking about those funds that are falling within that budget year. So when we work with Michael, before we want to place any investments with us, we can have the opportunity to run a cash flow analysis, make sure that we're understanding what the cash high and low points are for the village dollars, and making sure that we are laddering a portfolio for you so that those funds are being put to maximum use. If you guys are happening to ever do any sort of capital projects or anything like that, we have the opportunity to kind of manage your bond proceeds as well. There's certain rules that you have to follow in order to do that, and certain things you have to track to make sure that you're following IRS guidelines. That might fall in kind of that at intermediate term reserves, where you're looking to invest bond dollars anywhere from, 1 year to 2 years. And then also, again, if you happen to go the investment advisory route, you're looking at terms that are, in perpetuity, 2 years to perpetuity. So just kind of, understanding what your strategy is for the dollars that you're looking to invest before, making any decisions on how you're going to invest those. That's kind of the approach that we take. The next slide here just really talks about the types of investments that your village is able to partake in. Again, it's pretty limited. It's essentially all fixed rate investments. Just this past August, they passed a bill that allows villages to invest in corporate notes now. You were able to invest in repurchase agreements up to 270 days before then, but now you can invest in corporate notes out to 3 years. That's still not something that we suggest on the broker-dealer side of the business, which is what I think Michael is looking to utilize us for. We think that there's just, first of all, there's not as much supply out in the market right now, and as far as high-quality issuers, there aren't as many of those either. That's something that we still feel is best left to the investment advisor to make those types of decisions. But everything else would fall under allowable investment for you guys. Again, the long-term reserves, there's mutual funds and exchange-traded funds out there as well, but that would, again, only apply to pension funds if you were ever looking to do that. Everything else would be fixed-rate investments. So again, I mentioned before, this is one of our value-added services for our clients. We will do a liability-driven cash flow analysis that we'll put together for you. Again, to make sure we're understanding cash high and low points before doing any investing, and then making sure that we are maximizing investment income based on sort of this laddered approach for investment. So again, we want to strip out and see what are your operating dollars, how are you spending your money throughout the budget year, making sure we're matching payrolls, accounts payable, any debt payments that you might have to make, making sure we're structuring and meeting those liabilities. But then when there's an opportunity to take maybe some money out longer, you see the dark blue line that can be looked at maybe as your long-term reserves. And then, we always leave a liquidity cushion as far as making sure you always have cash on hand when making investments as well. So again, the whole purpose of this is to make sure that we're investing with a plan. We're not just going out blindly and saying, hey, this bank's offering a good CD here, let's pick this one, let's pick this one, let's pick this one. We're making sure that we're actually having a strategy behind those dollars. I think that's really important, to be invested in the market at all times, but making sure that you have a plan with your money as well. Okay, so next page here, this again kind of just gives you an idea of what our investment platform looks like. So again, we're a full-service broker-dealer. We work exclusively in that capacity. The reason that's important for you guys to know as well is that we do not hold any proprietary product as far as securities go. So when we go out in the market, we're going out same time, and we're looking at what investment options are best for you at that day and that time you're looking to invest. Again, why that's important is, if there's a bank or another broker that's holding their own inventory, there might be incentive for them to push a particular product at a certain time, depending on what market conditions are. That's never the case with us. We're not in that place to do that. So I think that's important to keep in the back of your mind. Again, kind of that middle section there, that's really, again, I think our big selling point here is that we have our relationships with all of our municipal clients, but then on the trading side of the business, we also have relationships with all of our banks and depositories. So that number is actually closer to 1,300 now, banking relationships across the country. So when you guys are looking to place investments for the city, we go out into our national network, our national database of banks, and we have an entire group of our trading team that manages those relationships. So when we're going out in the market, we're looking same time, we're seeing what are these banks across the country offering. And again, all these banks are meeting a very high credit quality standard to make sure that your money is going to large money center banks or community banks that have extremely high credit rating and that we're very comfortable with their balance sheet and that it's high quality. Again, We meet every type of different collateral that you could possibly need. They're all part of our, basically the deck that we can provide. So any types of collateral deposits that you need. We have letters of credit, insured deposits, essentially every form of collateralization that is allowable per Illinois state statute we have to offer. And then again, some of the service highlights here, again, because we have all those relationships, you're not just having to look at CDs that are out there for 90 days, 180 days, 365 days. We can actually go out into the market, find terms for your deposits that meet your particular liabilities, make sure that we're taking you further out the yield curve when we can, and making sure that we're, again, first and foremost, matching your liabilities of the city before we do any investing. Again, with how our fee structure works is that, as I mentioned before, we have, and this is again on the broker-dealer side, we have those relationships with those outside banks, and what they will do is they will quote us a gross rate, and just as you would in your own, brokerage account or E-Trade account, you'd go in there and you're given your bid-ask spread. So we'll be given a bid quote by the money center banks, and then we'll take the spread between what we give to the client. So we're always quoting you a net rate. So you're never getting an invoice or a fee at the end of the month. You're always being quoted a net rate as far as the fees go. And that spread is maxed out at 25 basis points. But we're usually in the 10 to 15 basis point range to make sure that we're giving our clients solid return and obviously remaining competitive. Otherwise, you wouldn't invest with us. So again, all those services that are highlighted at the bottom there, those all are part of the fee. So again, all the back office work is all taken care of. Wire fees, administrative fees, the cash flow analysis that we run for you, that is free of charge. We'll look at it, we'll review investment policy if that's something that you guys are looking for. I should also note that you would also get a designated advisor as well. So you're not calling up a 1-800 number if you need any help or if you guys are looking to place investments. You have a designated advisor that's on your account as well. So we really think that our service level and the way that we model it out is really beneficial to our clients because we really have that white glove service, and I think that's again something that separates us from the competition in this market. Next here. And I don't know how much more we need to get into this, Michael. This is kind of talking about our bond proceeds program. We also have a proprietary report as well that should you guys ever be looking to issue debt, there's some specific guidelines that you would need to follow when it comes to spend down requirements and how much you can earn on your investments and making sure that you're tracking arbitrage because this is often something that the IRS will look at. Making sure that you're not just issuing debt for fun to arbitrage it and make extra money off of it. They want to make sure that you're meeting a specific drawdown schedule and investing your funds appropriately. So that's another thing that we do for you, should that ever be something in the past. If you guys are ever looking to do capital expansion or projects within the city, we can help manage the bond proceeds from that debt as well.
Eric,
So,
there may be some questions out there.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And the last section here kind of talks about our investment advisor. I know Michael's not looking at that right now, but just so you know in the future that we do have, that's the last few slides here. Really talks about our investment advisor and kind of our track record and how we performed and how we can service you on that level too. So if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Let's start with the Alderman Ludwigson.
Sure.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
good, how are you?
Good.
When we actually go out and buy something,
Sure.
are you just matching us up with them, or I noticed that you talk about how you are insured,
FDIC insured, right.
So are we depositing with you and then you're making that transaction, or are you just matching us with somebody to do the transaction on our own?
Oh, no, we're actually placing that investment for you with that other entity. So, yeah, I mean, it would go through us. We wouldn't like call them up and say, hey, these guys are going to work with you. No, we will actually do the full transaction, and it would fall on our reporting, and obviously your deposit would be held at that institution, and then when it comes time for maturity of that deposit, it would be, placed back into your account, the cash would be placed back in your account along with that interest earning. But yeah, we would be actually placing the deposit for you.
But you're not acting you're acting as an agent, not as you're not holding anything after.
No, yeah, we do not.
It's issued in our name only.
Exactly, yeah, we are not holding any of your investments for you. We are, yeah, exactly, we're kind of, I guess, a pass-through agent. I guess you can kind of look at it that way. A true broker in the sense, yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Alderman Rosenthal,
I have a couple questions, if I can.
go ahead.
Okay.
Please.
One of the things I wanted, this is the last one I had. I want to go back to your fee structure. You said
Sure.
it ranges between 15 and 25 basis points.
Yes.
And how is that determined?
That's part of, well, that's just always the way we've had it in the past as far as we've.
Is it based upon volume of the investment or what?
No, it's strictly based on, it's based on the resolution when it's initially passed. I mean, that's how we've always set up our fee structure. But as far as the pricing goes, I mean, it's kind of, it would be basically more on supply and demand and what the rates are in the market. So obviously, if the spread is thin in the past, like back in 2008, I mean, we were cutting our fees essentially to nothing to make sure that our clients were getting a return. Yeah, the fees basically, it's based on, to make sure that the rate of return that you're getting is actually competitive in the market. So I mean, a lot of it is based on how competition's pricing. That's part of it as well. But essentially, when you go out on the market at the same time, the yield that's out there is going to be, for the most part, comparable across the different institutions. But again, to gain a competitive edge, there's times where you have to go skinnier on your fees to make sure that your clients are happy and staying with you.
So if I'm interpreting you correctly, it's kind of a negotiating thing.
It can be, yeah, when it needs to be, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay. The other question I had, you do have a number of municipalities that are your clients.
Yes.
That's what you said.
Yes.
Now. I'm interested, for information purposes, is how those municipalities may be structured. Do they have a committee, or do they have, how are they internally structured?
Sure.
Within the municipality
Well,
for investment?
Sure. So, I mean, a lot of it has to do on size. So, I mean, you'll have, like, City of Elgin is one of the biggest cities in one of the Collier counties, and that's one of our clients. And for them, they'll have a committee that they'll have to run investments through. Others, you're working with smaller entities, and you have the finance director that's kind of calling all the shots, and they don't have to run anything by a mayor. Sometimes, the mayor will have, final say on what investments are placed. Really, the city structure is kind of, they're all different, to be honest with you. It just depends on how involved they want to get with the investment process. But really, yeah, it kind of dependent on the city, and a lot of times the size and the amount of the investments will have a lot to do with that.
So my final question, let's assume you've got the account and there's an investment. How does the process initiate? Is it initiated by us calling you or whoever is designated broker? Is it a broker?
We call it a portfolio advisor, but yeah.
Portfolio advisor.
Sure.
Do they call and say, we've got this much to invest, or is the portfolio advisor initiating? How is that going to work?
No, so on the broker-dealer side, we do not initiate any investments for you. Everything will have to be run by the city first before placing any investments. So again, that's kind of the reason why we really like putting that cash flow analysis together for you, is that it gives us a reason, to stay in front of our clients as well. But it's really beneficial to you and us, so to make sure that, you're kind of maximizing your investments when you can. So it'll give us a reason to call up and say, hey, you guys have a liability coming due, a maturity, and your cash flows that you guys can do another $250,000 out in the CD block, and allows you to make those decisions. So it's really just a decision-making tool, but we would not just say, okay, they have this coming up, let's go place this investment. We would never do that. We have to call you first,
Right. No, I
get your
recognize
approval.
That's kind of the law.
Yeah.
I mean, are you waiting, let's say, for Mr. Ducharme to call you and saying we've got money to invest? Or are you initiating the call, or is it sort of combination?
It's kind of a combination. It'll be mutual depending on how, how he'll be utilizing the tool. If not, we always try to stay in front of our clients to make sure that we're not only, making sure the investments are appropriately invested out, but also, building that relationship as well. That's important. So there's always that communication between the two parties.
And I think if I heard you right, we would have a single account rep
Yes,
for our account.
yes.
Okay. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Messer,
I have no additional questions on top of what was asked.
Alderman Williamson.
I have no additional questions.
We also have our treasurer here.
Okay.
Would you like to ask something?
I have just had one question. You mentioned Elgin.
Yes.
Can you tell us what other municipalities around us you would be having as clients in our area?
Yeah, sure. So Buffalo Grove is one of our clients. We work with City of Geneva, City of St. Charles, City of Glen Ellen. We work with a lot of library districts, a lot of park districts in the area. Top of my head. That's the name of them. I can get Michael a list of the other ones. About 130 that we work with in the surrounding area.
Thank you.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
How is our money securitized? I mean, you don't securitize it. You're just a pass-through. Money goes to a
Sure.
bank or an institution. Investment is, it says here that we're basically covered for the 250 from the FDIC requirement.
Right. And that's
I
it,
mean,
right?
If we're working with $10 million,
Right.
what do we go to, 50 different banks?
Well, there's actually certain programs where you can actually do that. So
Well, you can do it with CDARS.
we do have that program as well, but then also depending on, again, how conservative or how open your investment policy is based on state statute, we have all those other forms of collateralization. So some people are comfortable with letter of credit through Federal Home Loan Bank. We have that for large block deposits. If that's something you're not comfortable with, we also have relationships with some of, again, those large money center banks like Citibank, Bank United, US Bank, that allow for large blocks of collateral to be placed, and they'll have designated collateral either through
To back it up.
to back it up. So
our
municipal
funds are-
securities,
are
government
always-
agencies,
Our funds are always guaranteed.
always collateralized and guaranteed by that backing.
Well-
And you'll have that designated collateral. You get a report, just like your monthly report that shows your activity. You get a collateral statement that shows the designated securities that are backing your particular deposits as well. If you're doing, large block deposits outside of those $250,000
You
deposits.
say that, but what if we want to invest 500,000 and we're limited to 250 through the FDIC? The banks take it from there and enhance the collateral?
Well, what we'll do is, so the FDIC is really just what the
Every-
SEC is guaranteeing you, right, should the bank fail. What they'll do is, again, there'll be some other form of collateralization that they'll use. And oftentimes what we'll do is we'll say, okay, you're looking to place out 500,000 out for 6 months. And what we'll do is we'll usually take 2 different banks and pair those together. Because again, we have, those 1,300 banks that we work with across the country, and we'll do 2 blocks at 250 if you're looking to do, a $500,000 deposit. So it'll be split between those 2 institutions, and it'll kind of be brokered out that way.
The CD rates right now run from 1.9 for a 2-year to 2.3 for a 5-year. What kind of return are you seeing from this process?
From this process, we're actually seeing, as part of our program, out 2 years, we're looking at rates that are actually in the 3% range.
Okay.
And that's just out 2 years. Again, that's kind of where the market is right now. And again, if you're using a local bank, I pretty much can, well, I can't say guarantee, but I can say that by using this program and making sure that, you have you have an entire team that's designated to really working those banking relationships and making sure that you're getting paid market rate. I mean, that's where rates are right now. I mean, Treasury and agency rates are kind of on top of each other along with the CDs. But again, when you're using this type of program, inherently in a normal rate environment, we're kind of flattening out now, but in a normal rate environment, there's that inherent yield advantage when it comes to using a CD program versus just a traditional U.S. securities investment. So that's where we feel that there's a yield advantage.
Let's say it's a 3% return minus your charge.
So that 3% is what we're seeing after fees, actually. So we're looking at rates that are,
After fees.
yeah, so, and again, we're always quoting you a net rate, but we're seeing some of our banks that are in the 3% range right now.
Well, I want everyone to understand that you're not playing the stock market.
Right.
And you could get 15%, although today you would have got a lot less.
Right, right.
So money is securitized. It's with a bank or an institution that's FDIC securitized or
Yes.
approved. Do you take the smallest amount? What's the smallest amount?
So we have no minimum requirements or balances either.
Okay.
And again, if we understand, I keep doing that, sorry. We understand how important those local banking relationships are too. So if you have a local bank that you guys are using, we can include that in our bidding process as well. So when we go out to bid for your investments, however often we do that, you say, hey, we want to include our local Wintrust Bank. And we have partnerships with a lot of local banks as well. Wintrust is actually one of them. So if you want to, utilize your bank as well, Michael can say, hey, can you include these guys on the bid? Make sure that they're able to at least show us what they can do. Sometimes they win, sometimes they don't. But, to make sure that you are sustaining that relationship as well, we understand how important that is.
All right, if we go to our own banks, do you still get a fee?
I'm sorry?
If we go to Wintrust on our own, do you still get a fee?
Not if you're placing the investments on your own, but if you go through us and then it ends up being that Wintrust gets it, then we do get a smaller spread on that. But yes, we'll still get a fee if you go through us. But obviously, if you're just calling on your own.
All right, back to Alderman Rosenthal.
Yes.
How would you position us, given what you know about us, in terms of your scope of clients now? Are we small, medium, large?
I'd say you're in the mid range. I'd say our average client portfolio is just spread out over our client base is about $7.5 to $8 million. But I mean, again, City of Elgin, they're a $150 million client, whereas we work with a lot of small villages as well. So on average, I'd say $8 to $10 million is about our average size client.
Additional questions? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So you talk about that you're compensated on a per transaction basis, and you list all the things that that includes, and then you talk
Yes.
about management fees.
Yes.
Is there a difference? Are management fees different than your compensation on, for example, a per transaction basis? And I talk about including credit monitoring, safekeeping charging, cash flow analysis plan. I mean, is that separate from the management fee, or is it?
No, that's inclusive. That includes all of, that's why we feel like our fee is fair, because everything on top of, just, brokering out your investment, you're getting all these other services included, again, also a designated advisor as well. And we really feel like that cash flow management tool is very powerful. And again, it's going to make sure that you're maximizing all of your dollars to make sure that you're getting as much interest in investment return as you guys could possibly get, while making sure that you're still hitting all your liabilities.
All right, could you just quickly explain the CDARS program?
Sure. So CDARS is basically a FDIC insurance reciprocating program. So what it'll do is, if you want to take if you guys, let's say you had $10 million to invest, you want to take it out a year, and you still wanted to utilize FDIC insurance coverage versus, government securities or another form of collateral, you basically use that. And what they do is, this company Promontory, they have this tool where they can basically reciprocate the different, the FDIC insurance number that, it allows you to have that FDIC insurance coverage and allows you to place it over that $10 million block. So you're getting the FDIC insurance coverage for that larger than $250,000 investment.
Questions, anyone? There being none, can we thank this gentleman for coming out and giving us a presentation? And obviously, we're going to take this under advisement.
Sure.
As anyone would.
Sure, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Next presentation is by Anthony Michelotti of Eder Casella and Company, the city's auditors.
Hi, everyone. All right, so that was on how you can spend your money. This is how your money has already been spent.
Oh, my.
I'll be relatively brief, and then I'll open it up to any questions that you guys have over the audit. First off, has everyone seen a copy of the audit? Or have a copy of the audit? Okay. So kind of a quick run through. Once you get past the opening section and into the financial section, the first thing you see is the opinion letter. And that's basically our opinion on the financial statements. And the goal of the audit is, are the financial statements materially misstated or fairly presented on a material basis? So we issued an unqualified opinion, which is the best opinion that you guys can receive. So nothing during the course of the audit gave us a reason to disclaim an opinion on a certain area or disclaim an opinion altogether. All right, and then after that, you're going to see a section called Management Discussion and Analysis. This section is basically a narrative of the financial statement. If you're going to read any particular part of this, it's not a bad section to read. Kind of summarizes big events during the year, summarizes long-term debt, fixed assets, major additions, major retirements. So again, not a bad area to focus on. Then, starting on page 11, these are your financial statements, and you guys actually have two sets of financial statements in here. There's the government-wide financial statements, which are more business-type financial statements. Includes everything from your fixed assets to your long-term debt to your pension liabilities to your OPEB liabilities, which is due this year, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. But this is kind of all-encompassing, all right? There's separate columns for your government activities and your business-type activities, but again, this is a true picture. So your total equity, if you want to call it, is $77.8 million in total net position. So that's the value of all the cash, the receivables, the fixed assets, net of depreciation, subtracting out liabilities for pension, OPEB, and long-term debt. Any questions on that page? All right, page 12, this is your government-wide income statement. This is broken down by the different functions of the government. So it has your expenses broken down by function, then your revenue related to those specific functions to arrive at kind of a net by function. And then it looks at your general revenues that aren't really allocated to one particular function. Government-wide net position increased this year about $3.8 million, which is about a 5.15% increase over the prior year. There was a net position adjustment, which is basically restating your beginning number, and that is due to the implementation of GASB 75, which is the OPEB, other post-employment benefit standard that was early implemented this year by the city. Page 13, and this is probably what everyone's a little more, sees on a more frequent basis. These are your fund level. So these are your current resources, okay? And it's broken down. This is just your governmental funds, all right? And so you guys can see the general fund has a total fund balance of about $9.6 million. Now, I draw your attention to the bottom section where it talks about fund balance. This is broken up into a couple different areas. One is non-spendable. So basically, prepaid expenses. This has a large investment, an asset that's held for resale that you can't just take and use to pay bills, all right? So then there's restricted. This is restricted by an outside agency or legal requirement. Then there's committed. This is done by board action. And then there's assigned. And then your unassigned basically can be used for whatever the city deems fit. There's no outside restriction. You guys can spend it on whatever the city needs. Your unassigned fund balance in the general fund is $2.4 million. The only reason I point out that number is everyone asks, well, how are we doing? And It's like an impossible question to answer. But one of the ways you can kind of phrase that is, how many months of reserves do I have? So within the general fund, you guys have about 3.25 months in reserve. So you guys could essentially not take in a single dollar of revenue, and the general fund could survive for 3.25 months. So we see anywhere between 3 and 12 months. You start getting beyond 12, you can have some issues with taxpayers on, well, why are you guys holding so much money, and then the property tax appeals start coming. But that's kind of a gauge on how well your reserves are, or how healthy your reserves are. Page 15, this is just an income statement basically for the fund level. Shows a total increase this year of all your governmental funds, about $3.3 million, for a total fund balance of all your governmental funds of about $20 million. Any questions on any of that so far?
What is your recommendation in terms of fund balance that we should have?
That's a tough one to answer. Sorry, that's a terrible answer.
No, it's a good answer.
I mean, safe, comfortable. I mean, you can start at 6 and kind of go up from there. You guys could be just fine with 3. It all kind of depends on the needs of the particular governmental entity. So I know that was a long roundabout way of not answering your question. So I apologize.
I mean, we've recently started the capital improvement program, so we're assigning money to a fund. Do you ever, I mean, to me, that's where it kind of gets gray, because if we just unassign it and say we're gonna use it for something down the road, we have a higher balance. You know, we could have 12, 14, 18 months worth of balance. And the assigned funds really aren't locked into place if something happens. So it's like a reserve on a reserve in case something happens. It's there.
Correct. And if I include those assigned funds within that calculation, you guys are right around the 6-month mark. All right, you have about, of the 9 million, only 5 million is non-spendable. So you're left with about 4.6 that is spendable. And you're running about 8.8 in general fund expenses. So you're right around kind of that 6-month mark. So it's obviously a lot healthier position, and you are correct. That money is assigned. Assigning it usually takes the place of, we're building up these reserves for a purpose, not just stockpiling cash to sit on it.
What's included in the the ones that you can't touch?
The non-spendable?
Yeah.
Prepaid expenses, and then the land by the stadium. So that, I believe, has since turned into spendable. But those are the 2 things that are non-spendable. Any other questions? So then, starting on page 17, this is your business type funds. So the water fund, the sewer fund, and the parking fund. Basically, these are presented like a normal business financial statement would be. Total government or business type funds has equity of about $5.6 million. Then there's a statement of cash flow, basically taking you from your beginning cash to your ending cash and how it was divvied up. Then on page 20, we get into the pension fund. So here's your your balance sheet and your income statement for the pension fund. Pension fund at the end of the year had about $16 million in it. Your pension fund actually increased about $1.6 million over FY17, excuse me. So saw a steady increase there. That's basically a twofold thing: increased city contributions, higher investment returns, offset by about $700,000 of expenses. All right, then starting on page 22, these are the notes of the financial statements. These lay out all of your policies, give you more detail about property taxes and long-term debt, fixed assets. There's 2 spots in here that I think can be beneficial to at least read through. One is the footnotes on pension funds. So those start on page 40. So these footnotes go into detail on what is required to receive a pension, what is the city's contribution, what is the employee's contribution, what did the pension liability do in this given year. So this is kind of a hot button issue for everyone these days. Not a bad read to really understand the pension situation of the city. And then the new item this year to the audit report was page 48. And this is other post-employment benefits. So outside of the pension, what post-employment benefits do you offer, and what is the cost associated with those benefits? For you guys, it's retiree insurance. So they're able to be on your plan, and even if there's no cost to the city itself, there is an inherent cost of having those people on your plan because the makeup of your pool kind of determines your rate. So that is essentially what this is. This is an actuarial determined number based largely on assumptions. I can't even go into what they do to come up with this number. After that's your budget to actual information, starting on 56. Then some more pension plan information, starting on 61. And then you get into the supplemental information, which is combining statements and just kind of more statements that back up the front statement. Any questions? Try to do it quick enough to keep people awake. I also want to say thank you to everyone in the city's staff. It was our first year doing the audit, which is never an enjoyable experience for the staff. They were incredibly helpful. They were very diligent in getting us all of our information. It was an absolute pleasure working with all of them. So I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
You have a question?
Yeah.
Do you produce a management letter too?
We do. And this year, there was actually basically a letter issued to say that there was no management letter issued. So the current year did not, there was nothing that rose to the level of a management letter.
Nothing at all you have? Pretty good.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good sign.
Yeah.
So, and obviously, if there's anything big that comes up during the audit, we don't wait until the end for a management letter. We would obviously inform the board right away. Yeah, no management letter this year. Everything was in good order.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6, appointments, confirmations, and proclamations. There are none. Do we have any public concerns and comments on agenda matters?
We do not.
Which brings us, Mr. Mayor, to staff, elected officials, and commission reports.
All right, well, let's, rather than trying to get some hierarchy, let's just go right down the line. Alderman Williamson.
Thank you, I have no report tonight.
Alderman, CFO Michael Ducharme.
Oh, I have enough items on the agenda. I'm sure you don't need any more of a report from me.
All right, let's move forward. I agree with your. Mr. Mark Roscoe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make it quick. 2018 road work is wrapping up. The barricades and the roads will be back to normal, actually better than normal pretty soon. Public Works is getting ready for the change of seasons, and we're 12 days away from our holiday tree lighting. I bring this up to let our residents know it's a group effort with the Garden Club, the Lions Club, the Park District, Fire Department, Police Department, City Hall staff, council, mayors, and Public Works. It's a great time. It's an outstanding community feel is what you're going to get out of it. So we'll look to see everyone there. Thank you.
Mark, are we going to have that inside tree lighting?
No, sir. It is going to be, this year, we're changing venues. We're going to go over to the Morava Center.
Right.
The tree is going to be right in the center of their front parking area,
Okay.
the big grassy peninsula. And we'll have, the police department will have traffic safety in place. There's plenty of parking. if it's cold, there'll be plenty of room inside for people to warm up. And I think the layout this year is going to be excellent. So can't wait to see Santa there. I got a list for him.
You're checking it twice.
Yes, sir.
Peter,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No report tonight.
our next report comes from Dan Peterson.
Thank you. Quick update, the McDonald's on Milwaukee Avenue will be issued their conditional occupancy permit tomorrow. They've done all their improvements to the site and interior. The condition is they can't get their landscaping and a couple other things done right now, and that'll happen in the springtime. Additionally, I've been back, and today I spoke with Minor and East at River Trails, and their design team is still moving forward, and we're expecting within 2 weeks to get their first set of reconstruction plan submittals, so that's good news.
Well, thank you. Alderman Messer?
I don't have a report, but I did want to thank our Director of Building Development, Dan Peterson, and all the staff that's been helping him work with River Trails. The demolition and rebuilding process has been moving faster than what most people thought it would. It's because we have a great team working together to help things move along. That's all.
Thank you. City Clerk?
I just wanted to add to Mark Roscoe's, is that on? Okay. To Mark Roscoe's, his event invite, that the tree lighting will be at 5 p.m. at the Gary Marava Recreation Center, which is located at 110 West Camp McDonald Road, and it will begin with the activities with the tree lighting, and then the Cub Scouts, Daisy's Girl Scouts, and St. Alphonse Choir will sing Christmas carols. And there'll be cookies baked by the Garden Club members, and the Lions Club will be stirring up a big batch of hot chocolates. I want to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving as well.
Thank you. Deputy Clerk Karen Schulteis.
Thank you, Mayor. No report.
All right, Alderman Larry?
Yeah, I've been having some conversations. I think it's largely due to the fact of my interest early on in my term with the lake and with the slough. Several of the neighbors in that area have contacted me and are concerned with what kind of input, or if they will even have input, as we move forward with the IGA for Willow Road and the surrounding areas. When I asked them specifically what do they want, their response was they want to be allowed through either a committee or a special task force to allow input to the discussion before we go to a point where we're negotiating a contract. They want to have their input. They're not saying we want to decide for you, but we just want to make sure that we have our input. And their concern is that they won't have that. So I'm bringing that to the council. I want to make it official in the record. I don't think I need to make a motion to make that happen. When I asked how they would want to see this committee or whatever they're talking about structured, they saw it as a very small committee that would have representation of no more than 5 people, 2 being 2 aldermen, the third being the city administrator, and the other 2 being representatives of the neighborhood for input. So whatever the best way is to handle this, if it's read into the record and at the time we begin talking about the IGA, we have that in place, that'll be fine.
All right, thank you. Alderman Ludwigson?
Yes, at church on Sunday, I had a couple of people come up to me who live over off of Dale in that neighborhood over there by Brendanberry Apartments. And they had a question, Dan, I'm only asking now because this came up Sunday, didn't get a chance to call you today. I know they watch this, so I'm asking so that we can get back to them about a lot on Royal Court. I don't know if that's come before you yet, but there's a lot of excitement, not in a good way, about what might happen there, so.
Can we talk about this offline?
Absolutely.
We can talk tomorrow.
I know there's 2 different families, I'll get back to them after we talk about it.
Yeah, the department has had discussions.
Okay.
Thank you. Chief of Police?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple things. First, we're doing candidate interviews for police officers. We went through 14, actually, the Fire and Police Commission went through 14 interviews on Saturday. I want to thank them for their diligence and efforts in this effort. And they will be conducting more interviews this coming Saturday and Sunday. And on the flip side of that, the officers will be conducting a food drive for folks that might need a little help during the holidays. And they will be at Tony's Fresh Market on the 16th, 17th, and 18th. On the 16th, they'll be there at 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. On November 17th, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And on November 18th, from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. And they plan on distributing food at the Harper Learning Center on November 20th.
So they'll be soliciting food from people walking by, or what happens?
Folks will afforded the opportunity to donate food, that as they go in, they'll see that we're collecting food for people in Prospect Heights, and they'll be offered the opportunity to donate. And we've got a pretty good working relationship with Tony's this year, and they're welcoming us and assisting us in this effort. So hats off to Tony's.
All right, good. That should be a good success story later. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, this is more of a point of information, directing it toward the city clerk. When we make these reports, are they detailed in our minutes or not? The specific things, the specific content, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. And we have soon-to-be famous Treasurer Tibbetts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No report.
You fooled me again. All right, I think that covers everyone. I don't have anything to tell you other than it's too cold to be here. And I enjoyed a few days off where it was warm. Moving forward, Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to our workshop items for tonight. We have staggered elections, sanitary sewer delinquent payments, and city investment policy.
Can we just go down to number 11 and stop having people sit here through our...
Oh,
very-
absolutely. We can move to
very,
that.
important reports, but very tedious for some.
Sure. Item 11 is old business, a staff memo and ordinance approving a special use permit for an automobile storage facility at 1326 North Rand Road in the city's B3 Commercial Wholesale and General Services District. This received a Plan Commission recommendation for approval of special use, and within your packet are the conditions that were recommended.
What was the vote?
It was unanimous.
Yes.
Dan, 7-0?
It was 6-0. We had one absent
Okay,
that
6-0.
evening.
Absent.
Thank you.
Mr. Eberhard, would you mind coming to the microphone, because I think there'll be some questions. Joe Eberhard is the owner of Village Cyclery and is here to appeal.
Right.
For help. Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor, I'd like to ask that we table this until the next meeting.
Why?
Why? I mean, do you have a reason? You just don't want to hear?
Well, I mean, one of the people that spoke as much as I did about it's not here to ask questions, so I'd just like for him to be here, just a courtesy to him. He's not at the meeting today.
Well,
You need a second for that?
Need a second.
I'll second it then for purposes of discussion.
all right, then what happens if he doesn't come next time either? Do we table him again, or what?
I don't know, but this,
All right,
I'm
thank
sure
you.
you're okay with that, I'm assuming, and it's another 2 weeks.
Yeah. It's 2 weeks from today.
2 weeks.
20, who has the date, 26?
Yep.
I don't think, what do we need?
Motion second, roll call.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Ludwigson.
Aye.
Alderman Rosenthal.
Aye.
Alderman Messer.
Aye.
Alderman Williamson.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, back to the agenda.
We had previous discussion of staggered elections. A new item is sanitary sewer delinquent payments. And then city investment policy is something we've carried, and we had a presentation on that tonight.
All right, where do we start?
Staggered elections. This was an item that Alderman Williamson asked for the council to review.
All right, then what have we reviewed? This came up last meeting also, right? Did we talk about this?
Correct.
All right, anyone want to add to what we talked about? Alderman Williamson?
I guess less than adding to it, a better question would be, is this something we're interested in doing, and is this something we are doing? You know, has anyone determined which petition is needed? Has anyone begun circulating the petitions or not?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to
Yes,
ask
sir.
the attorney a question if I can. Since this isn't something that's similar to home rule, and it's something that's really just a matter of inside business, I guess, of the city. It's not, doesn't affect anybody or won't change anybody's rights or taxes or anything. Is this something that you're able to draft a proper question to be put on the ballot for us, or is that considered interfering with the process?
If I remember right, I think a proposed question was listed on the memo.
I'm talking about the format of the petition, and everything else can fall into play as far as being correct.
Oh, assisting on the petition?
The petition itself. You can get back to us on it.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
Tell us right.
I'll look into it and get back to you on that.
Because I don't think it's the same as like, I get home rule, I get a bond referendum, or an SSA or something like that, but this is, you know.
It's not incurring an expense for the city or
Correct.
anything like that, yeah,
Right.
I get it.
I guess I'd like to ask the question, I mean,
Yes, sir.
is there opposition to it by anyone to change the format and stagger the elections? I mean, is there a reason not to do it?
Are you talking about on the council here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, on the council, I thought you were asking in the general public. I'd say you wouldn't get 100% of the people to say the sky is blue. So
No, I get that. I just, being pragmatic, to have an entire council go out at a single time doesn't make sense. I mean, you're losing, the history and the knowledge of all those before you. I mean, I understand that people come and go, but people shouldn't all come and go at one singular time.
And it really won't affect anybody here because the question's asked in the spring and then wouldn't go into effect.
Correct. It would affect
4 years.
4 years from, 4 years and 6 months from now, so. And then, one wave is gonna be coming for 2-year term for the first time, and then it goes to 4-year terms subsequently after that. So, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of support for it, and I guess I don't understand why. And Wendy, you've been vocal about it in the past, saying that you didn't like it, but why? Why is?
I didn't say I didn't like it, I thought it was fine. I don't have an objection to it at all. I think it's a good idea.
I haven't heard any opposition to it. I don't think.
Thank you. I've thought about this for a while. I don't have any particular objection, other than it's been hard to find people to run for office in this city. We've had to appoint in the past. It's hard enough to find qualified people, yet alone anybody that'll step up and run. There are known vacancies coming up. Nobody has called me. I'm not sure if anybody got calls and say, gee, I'd really like to run for that position, et cetera. 4.5 years from now, I suppose my objection doesn't count anyway. That can be changed, I presume. Is that right, Mr. Attorney?
I'm sorry?
Whatever we do can be changed, the next council, let's say.
You mean revert back?
Yeah.
In theory, maybe, but I would imagine once you get back onto this, this procedure where you're gonna be offset, I would presume you'd stay that way.
May I make a comment, Mayor?
Yeah.
Just to kind of piggyback on your comment, I almost feel like that's a reason why we should be staggered, having a hard time finding people to run. Like Scott said, if you have everyone go out at once, at least if it's staggered and someone goes out, at least you've got a little bit of time. If someone needs to be appointed or whatever, at least staggering, you do have some people that are still going to be sitting on the council who have been and have some knowledge of what's been going on. So I think having a hard time finding people to run is actually another reason to have the staggering.
Anyone else, please?
Yes?
Yes, sir.
In concept, I'm for it, but as in everything else, the devil will be in the details. However, that should not preclude us, I would not like to see us precluded from going forward and coming up with a plan that we as a council could agree to for purposes of a referendum, if that's where we're going. I've been in favor of something like this. I raised the question even before I got on this council with the legal counsel at the time, about several years ago. I don't remember exactly how far. So, first, yeah, I'm in favor of it.
Okay, if I could ask, Mayor, if I could have the floor again. I direct this to Attorney Driscoll. How many signatures do we actually need to get the referendum question?
10% of whatever the votes were for the mayor last go around.
Last go-around was about 1,600.
1,600?
Yeah.
Okay. And again, I'm certainly not trying to make this a me versus you thing. I just think that it is more of a logical approach, and it's what all of the communities around us do, is there is a staggered election for Arlington Heights, there's a staggered election for Wheeling, there's a staggered election for Buffalo Grove. So I think that, you know, why should we be the standalone community that could all be voted out in a wave? So.
I don't think that's ever happened, by the way. I've been here 40 years. I don't think everybody got kicked out, and not, you know.
It's not about today, it's not about yesterday, it's about tomorrow.
Who said that?
I did.
Oh. I wasn't sure. I thought I heard. Yeah, I think it was Winston Churchill, but that's, good point. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Microphone.
Identify yourself.
Just a little bit. No, one of the things we didn't talk about here was how the staggering would occur. You know, would it be, we talked about it, I think, a little bit last time, would it be wards 1, 3, and 5 that would go, and then 2 and 4 would be the alternate? If that's the way it would work out, I think that's what we talked about before. How would the citywide offices be incorporated into that?
By statute, they go along with the mayor.
Yeah. Rich, can I comment on the first part? First of all, I've said from the beginning when this first came up, and I've talked to Kevin about it to make sure that it could be done this way. I don't think it should be 2 and 4 that are staggered. I think 1 and 5 need to be separate, and I think 3 and 4 need to be separate, because 3 and 4 have a lot of issues in common, and 1 and 5 have a lot of issues in common. So if you lose someone from Ward 1 and 5 in the same term, and you have 2 new people coming in, you have 2 people that don't have the experience of all the issues that have been going on over there. So I think it's better to have 1 and 5 stagger each other and 3 and 4 stagger each other. So whether you put 1 and 3 on a term and 2, 4, and 5, but because of the different issues that come up on the different sides of the city, I think it's important that if we're going to do the staggering, that we do it so it makes sense as far as having someone with experience of issues in this particular area staggered from each other.
Did you say you spoke with Kevin and he said that would be okay?
He said it should be okay, and if not, we can renumber the wards.
I think
To make it so it can be okay.
I think the way the statute right now, the way it reads is two, and it would be the even numbered wards, that's why. So we'd have to change, we'd have to change it.
Yeah. Okay, well.
Change what?
Well, again, here's my point. I think if you're going to run a referendum about this, you have to be real clear with people as to what they're voting for, that this is the hardwire, the way the wards would be arranged in each of the alternate, election cycles.
You could do that, but I mean, keep in mind, you have to formulate a question that's that long. So.
People are going to want to know. Having had experience with a referendum recently, I can tell you people are going to want to know.
And thank you for that.
Yeah. And also, what about the citywide offices? How are they fit into, Laura, did you talk about that?
That I can go either way. Treasurer and clerk can be together, clerk and mayor.
No, by statute, it has to.
If there's a
It goes along with the mayoral election.
then whatever statute is for that.
You would have 2 aldermen, a mayor, clerk, treasurer on one election, and then you would have 3 aldermen on a separate election.
Okay, yeah.
You know that's the way it would work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the
Really
bigger
doesn't
concern is
matter.
the
I mean,
alderman.
All we're trying to do is just randomize it, that's all.
From a person.
I get the idea of 1 and 5 and 2 and 4, and 3 and 4, that makes sense, because, we are fighting the same issues, or trying to solve the same issues in 3 and 4, and same thing in 1 and 5. As far as where the other positions fall, it doesn't really matter. I mean,
I think it does.
really?
Yeah.
Give me a scenario that says it would make a difference.
Well, having run in 4 of, well, not 4 of them, but yeah, 4 of them already, what's the term? Maybe safety in numbers in a way? I mean, if you're going to run for citywide office, it's a lot harder, as far as appealing to the entire city rather than just one ward. If you've got a mayor, a clerk, and a treasurer running at the same time, there's a little bit of synergy in being able to, work with the various candidates, even if there's multiple candidates for these offices. It wakes up the city a little bit more that there is a citywide event going on, whereas if you've just got an election for a treasurer, I mean, who cares? In some cases, people don't really think that's a real office in a way, but, it obviously is in this town. And so.
Yeah, but it's not as if somebody would not be running in any election. Every election going forward, every 4 years would be election. It's just whether that first term is 2 years or 4 years for 2 of the aldermen. That's all that matters. The mayor and the clerk, and they would all be running every 4 years.
If it's an off-year election, and let's say it's the clerk and the treasurer running, and there's nothing else to vote for.
No, you're not
It's hard.
understanding. The only thing that's happening, the only change in this whole thing, and I'm going to just use wards 1 and 4. Let's say they're the ones that are only going to get a 2-year term, one time.
Mm-hmm.
So, after that, everybody's going to be on a 4-year term, so it won't matter.
So you're saying it's going to be clerk, treasurer, and mayor all at the same time, no matter what?
Yes.
Right.
I got it. Well, I think that helps, actually. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, so we've had a discussion. You have been charged for getting some information, I think. And if we can move on, that would be fun.
Sanitary sewer delinquent payments, I'll turn this over to Mike Ducharme, and he can set this up. We have about $60,000 in arrears from, I think, approximately 200 properties.
Yeah, I think we have talked about this a little bit for some time. It's one of the issues now that there is a separate sewer bill going out of finding the correct leverage that will get people to pay these bills.
Give them back their poop.
Normally, though, their sewer bill is tied to a water bill. That's not the case here. It's not like we can turn somebody's water service off and at the same time that fixes their sewer bill. So at this point in time, there's $58,000 sitting out there in delinquent sewer bills. We're trying to find that right formula. Is it that we need to go out and place a tag on somebody's door to show them that we've got a problem here. We've amended the code that we can send them to collection, but currently even a collection agency is not as effective as it's been in the past, because prior to now, a collection agency could mark somebody's credit. Technically, for matters like this, currently, they cannot mark their credit. They can pursue them, send them letters, call them, whatever normal services they do, but they're not allowed to mark their credit, which again takes some leverage away from these accounts. What we're trying to do is figure out if there's a way possibly that, can we send them to adjudication? And hopefully that will allow us to get some more payments on these accounts. That's the matter that we're faced with now, and we're just looking for some feedback from the council in terms of what you'd be okay with. Are you willing to let us try anything? Because we can't continue to allow this problem to go on.
I like the idea of issuing a ticket, P-ticket, whatever, because then we have leverage, if that's possible.
Just for the record, we did review this with Kevin Carney. He had concerns about that. John's going to take another look at it, but we did look at that, vetted it legally.
John, is there any way, I mean, a house can go without water, they can go without air conditioning and still be habitable. Well, this probably is more for Dan. If somebody goes a certain period of time without paying their sewer bill, can we assume that there's something wrong and at some point say, you're gonna require an inspection to make that house habitable again, because they need to be, their service has been disconnected by not paying?
The answer to that is no, because structurally the sewer is working. It's not backing up. In a normal community that had a combined sewer and water service, like Finance Director Ducharme was saying, is we would just shut off the water, thus making it uninhabitable. Okay, and then that would give us our leverage. However, in our situation, it's not that we have a faulty sewer and you have unsanitary conditions, it's just failure of payment. And that does not make a structure uninhabitable. That's the trick bag that we're in right now.
Are we allowed to run a list of people not paying? Can we put that in the city newsletter?
Oh, I've got some ideas, big 4x8 sheets of plywood in the front yard, but there's a cost and there's what direction does the council want to go?
I think some of these people are just refusing to do it for a point. It's not that they didn't get the notices and once we get to a certain point of making sure that we know that they know, I think we have to go to another level. And whether that be post it in our newsletter. These are scofflaws here in Prospect Heights not paying their fair share. I mean, I don't know what else we can do. I mean,
clearly they know it's delinquent.
We did it, but, right.
I mean, short of putting a red sign in the right of way, like this house is delinquent on its sewer bill. I mean, at some point somebody will do something. I get it if somebody doesn't get notice, and we should do everything we possibly can to make sure that we know that somebody's gotten the notice that they haven't paid it.
Oh, we know they've got it.
Right, and once we get to that point, then I think we have to get extremely creative.
Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Oh.
When the sewer letters, or the sewer, they're not letters, as we all know, that they're postcards. When they've been going out and we do see that someone has, well, for the most part, never paid their sewer bill, what Eileen has been doing, who handles the sewer bills and mails them out, she started stamping on them past due. And that little stamp on those postcards started getting people calling into the city and in most cases being very irate why they were getting a past due notice. That's why we were thinking of, besides the stocks that you want to bring into in front of City Hall for a public shaming, maybe something as simple as a door hanger, which would be very cost effective, but we think would get the resident who lives there, who may be a renter, It's very possible that, because we do have a bunch of rental properties, that someone who's been living there for 2 years, they don't know that they've got to pay a sewer bill. And the property owner maybe just is ignoring it because it's going to their address instead of the service address. So that's why we were kind of hoping that to get some direction from the council on exactly how far you're willing to let us go in order to get kind of in front of these people and let them know that this is not acceptable any further.
What was legal counsel's response to the fact of producing a scofflaws list?
I have some ideas I'd rather discuss offline, if that's okay.
Pardon me?
I have some ideas I'd rather discuss offline.
Okay.
So.
All right.
I have some questions just
Yes.
quickly about, well, we said the P-tickets are an issue, but can we do something like refuse to issue a vehicle sticker if they don't pay it, but then fine them if they don't get their vehicle sticker? I mean, what else can we do that would pose enough threat that they'll be wanting to do it or forced to do it?
Well, right now, nothing.
Well, I know, that's why we're
But
trying to
if
figure
we
something out.
can Legally put something on the books.
Yeah, I mean, right now, we can't, that's not the way our code is set up. Could we play around with the code? Maybe, but, I mean, there's the discussion, you guys don't want to go the way of liens.
Yeah, then you clean their house, but I don't know if
It's
that's
not
gonna accomplish
efficient or
necessarily.
effective, cost effective. Yeah.
We pay the service directly, and we pay for the city.
No, they pay it directly, right. But it's-
We have a
it's fine,
contract,
we have to
but-
control where the garbage goes.
But in response to what Wendy was saying, I would imagine that the same people who aren't paying their sewer bill are probably the same people not buying their city.
It's probably not, right?
But I bet they are paying their garbage bill because they know they need to pay their garbage.
Well, that would be another, I mean, that's another possible thing to threaten them with. I don't know, if that's possible.
But how do you tie somebody's sewer to their
To the
garbage?
garbage, yeah, I know.
I mean, people are able to do it with a water bill because in those communities, it's a combined water and sewer bill.
Right, right,
That's how they tie or marry them.
right.
Here, you may have a city water bill, but it's totally separate service from your sewer bill. So therefore, I can't hold one against the other to force you to pay the other one.
And if we assessed a fine, or as you say, like a P-ticket or something, how would we administer that? How would we adjudicate? How would we administer that whole process?
Presently, we would have to go through the district court in Rolling Meadows. It is not an approved adjudicatable offense at this time. And in review of the statute and discussions with Kevin some time ago, I don't even know if we have the full authority to issue citations and take them to court for non-payment. That's where we're kind of looking at our ordinances and the state statute to see how far we can go, but it would be at this current time, through the district court.
Do we have the authority to install a Buffalo box? To shut off the sewer?
There's a huge expense.
Only takes one.
Why not try a collection agency? You know, I've worked with those people for a long time. They'll call you at midnight. We had a great company, they would call the mayor, or the neighbor. Say, Mr. Jones, at midnight, you haven't paid the rent, right? So I'm not Mr. Jones, man. Jones lives next door. Next night, Mr. Jones, you haven't paid, et cetera.
I think there are collection laws, though, in terms of when they can call.
No, there's nothing against that. The guy
Well-
said they had the wrong number for all this time. But what does this guy do? The third time, he'll go knock the guy's door down. I mean, he'll
Yeah, I don't think you're
really,
gonna get a collection agency
he'll
to
really
do that.
take.
Yeah, but part of the problem is not too many people have landlines anymore.
Yeah.
So then you've got to try and get their cell numbers and.
Are we sure too that, is this a long list of 58,000, how many people were, did you say it
It
was?
says 201 and
Are we
201.
sure- Do we have a program where we make sure that when somebody's applying for a permit or coming to us for something, that they're not on that list?
I don't think we can withhold based on that.
we can ask, just like we double check with village sticker violations and any outstanding tickets, metro fines, we do check and we do notify them, but the law does not allow me to withhold a building permit just because of a non-payment. We are looking into that, and, you know, Kevin and I have discussed it. And we've gotten a couple of payments. We've been more effective on the metro violations than we have on the sewer.
What can we do to make it a P ticket legally?
You'd have to change the code around, make it, I guess, were you able to see if there was a penalty associated with this?
No, I didn't get a chance.
There is a penalty for late payment, yes. There is a penalty, 10%. We're assessing the penalty, but it goes back to the fact of if somebody hasn't paid you for 6 sewer bills, why would they care if they have a penalty?
So, I mean, that seems to be the easiest. What happens when you don't pay your traffic ticket? You get it in the mail and, you know, it's now $300 instead of $80, whatever it is. Chicago does really well with that kind of stuff. Why can't we make this a legal process?
Generally on a ticket, though, if I could speak, and I think it comes up in towns, generally on a ticket, if somebody has 10 unpaid citations and you want to pursue it, you're able to suspend their license.
Right.
In this case, that's not what we're talking about sewer service here. What am I going to suspend?
Well, I think we'd have to figure that out. If you have the 10 tickets on your car, what happens? You get a boot, right?
But-
Matter of fact, we have a former alderman.
But that gets us back to booting the sewer.
Right.
I mean, I guess,
Tie it
yes,
together somehow. Tie something together with this problem.
I guess we could disconnect it and somehow try and pass the cost along to the
Well,
homeowner,
you know,
but
if we could talk to people, I had a lady come in 2 weeks ago. She said, what is this? I'm not gonna pay this. I said, ma'am, that's your sewer bill. She said, oh, I don't care. I'm not gonna pay it. I said, you don't have to pay it. She said, I don't? I said, no, you don't. Well, I don't understand. I said, well, what we're gonna do is block the sewer before your house and block the sewer behind your house. And you just won't have sewer service. You don't mind, do you? She walked out. That was the end of that story.
But what would
She paid it.
what would the cost be to do that, to cut off sewer service? I mean, it'd
Calculation.
be a couple thousand?
There's excavation involved, and there'd be definitely a formidable expense.
There are some instances, though, where it's very inexpensive and you're able to do it. You know, the problem is, it's not like the Buffalo box that everybody has one. So there's would we be allowed to stop the service?
I
mean, why is it different than
John?
water?
I don't know. I really don't know. I'd have to take a look and.
Well, I would think, I mean, we're providing a service and it's not.
I don't know why you couldn't.
Probably you'd be okay, but.
The issue would come up in the discussion that I've had with other code officials about this matter is that now we have taken the action to make someone's housing uninhabitable, unhealthy, and potentially putting that family at risk.
No, they
No.
are putting themselves in that position in which you had to make that
I
choice.
understand, but we made the choice to disconnect their service. They made a choice not to pay. We have to look at other alternatives administratively. We can't take physical action, and what other people have said, to put a family's health at risk. And that's just a cautionary statement. We could get there, but I don't know if that's that would be very effective, and I agree with this guy, it would only take one. But I don't know if you shut it off and now we've taken somebody's property, which could be a Fifth Amendment takings, by disconnecting the sewer and then declaring the house uninhabitable. I don't know if that's a position the city wants to put itself in.
Well, then you just don't declare the house uninhabitable.
Well, if you make it uninhabitable, we're taking their house, their right to live in their structure, which is a Fifth Amendment takings.
If you turn their water off and they're not able to flush toilets and stuff, doesn't that make it
No, you can't
uninhabitable?
do that.
but I can't turn their water
Oh,
off.
I thought you said with the water, you could turn it off, but they weren't paying. I thought I heard someone down
If
there.
I had-
There's all kinds of due process issues.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
you know, the
Why-
water
why
is
don't
seen
we-
as almost a constitutional.
Why don't we just try a 6-month trial period with a collection agency?
I mean, we have access
that
to a
tomorrow.
collection agency, yes, we're just
Do tomorrow.
trying to do, we have the clearance to do it.
And in the meantime, then let us, our attorneys see if they can come up with some stronger stuff.
What about the liens? What's wrong with the place?
Very costly, and, I mean, I would just tell you from a standpoint of a lien, you're waiting until that property gets sold.
Right.
In our
Could be
case,
30
where
years from now.
we're going to have huge sewer capital improvement plans, we're depending on those sewer revenues coming in to allow us to move forward with that program. We can't collect the money, we're limited in terms of what we can do without paying for it from another resource.
Mike, if we could structure what the direction we're seeking tonight,
on. Go ahead, no, you're on the air.
at least if we could follow through, I think your department's recommendation was authorization for the high visibility notices, use of collection agencies. And then John's going to go back to Kevin and
Correct.
take another look at that. Kevin had some, I think, some legal concerns. But basically, we're asking permission to take off the gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
You know, the city of Chicago simply, every year, comes up with a moratorium. Say, pay your tickets in the next 3 months, and we'll forgive any penalties. Not forgive the ticket, but forgive any penalties. That's about and theirs is quite effective, because got a lot of cops around, got a lot of more tickets under the window around, et cetera. But I would just suggest you go with a collection agency immediately and let this thing ride for a couple months and see what's going on. We did well on a collection agency for the city stickers. Got a lot of money out.
Oh, sure.
And
I don't think
But
we should get a car loan or
the-
anything.
We had the issue there, though, as well, where collection agencies in the past would send them to a credit bureau. Recently, the collection agency we were using said that we were going to change that. That they
Fine,
wouldn't,
but
they,
let's try something. Some of them will pay whether it goes to the law or not.
okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir. Last question, I hope.
Well, I would like to speak on to what you were suggested in the form of a motion to utilize collection agencies for, let's say, a period of 6 months, or I'm open to that duration, and at the same time, charge legal counsel with investigating what other sanctions we can place upon those who are delinquent in their sewer payments.
Well, I like it, obviously, because I thought of it.
Huh?
I thought of it. That's why I like what you just said. No,
Well, no, I
understand.
did credit you on that.
I did. You did. Thank you.
I don't know that it's a motion as such, if you just give direction right
Right,
now.
we don't
and
need
then-
a
Don't make it its direction, whatever you want to call it.
All right, we have realized that we don't need a motion. Everybody with me?
Yes.
To simply give direction to staff to employ, to hire, to whatever.
Hire a collection agency.
Move forward with a collection agency and report at the next meeting what you did.
Okay.
And yes, in the meantime, legal should be looking into some more meat to the product.
Mr.
of,
Mayor?
Fines.
Do we need any definition in this direction in the sense of any charges made as a result of the collection agency's activity is charged to the delinquent payer? Do we need that direction?
As
too?
in for, well,
I don't think
do you remember if the code doesn't include an ability to try and get, for instance, collection costs, fees, attorney's fees, any of that?
The code was just switched that would allow us to add the costs of collection.
It does?
to the- Yes.
Okay.
there you have it.
We just did that. Kevin did it, worked on it in the last 6-9 months.
Done deal. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rosenthal, for the advice and consent. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
question, sir.
Yes.
Would it be possible for finance to send the list of the 201 addresses to staff and the aldermen? I have constant contact with our residents looking for services in requests from Public Works. It'd be nice if I had that list and I could educate a customer if they happen to be on it.
That's a good idea.
I don't want to get into the collection business myself, but education may play a key role.
It's a good idea.
That's a
All right,
good idea.
What would the process be? What's he asking for?
He just wants a list to go around and circulate.
Yeah, okay, good. Good recommendation, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on.
City investment, we have the presentation, this is a carryover item, and we also have the PMA agreement proposed under new business. Is there anything else of topics for the workshop meeting? And we will need new topics for the next meeting, if there's anything that the council members would like to discuss coming up for December. We have one meeting in
Well, we're
December.
going to go ahead and see, or at least talk about what the collection agency process, which we'll implement immediately, if it brings us to any.
Review, certainly.
And then there's always, people can always call in. if they
Sure,
want,
sure.
Alderman can always call in if you want this specific issue for the future. All right,
Which brings us to the consent agenda. We have 3 items for consideration tonight. If there are any questions or comments?
I move to approve the consent agenda items 10A through C.
we have a motion to approve the consent agenda. A second, please.
Second.
We have a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Ludwigson. Alderman Rosenthal.
Aye.
Alderman Messer.
Aye.
Alderman Williamson.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Joe?
Thank you. Old business, we have tabled. Item 11A has been tabled, which brings us to new business. This is the agreement for the PMA Financial Networks assistances with investments.
Make a motion, we approve?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Alderman Williamson.
Aye.
Alderman Ludwigson.
Aye.
Alderman Messer.
Aye.
Alderman Rosenthal.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. You have the warrants next, or is there?
We do have item B, which is the resolution authorizing and establishing the city investment policy. This memorializes the changes that Michael has addressed.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Please. We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion?
Can we, excuse me, Mayor,
Yes.
can we have that subject to attorney review, please?
Yes. The person making the motion, are you good with that?
Yes.
Ma'am? Subject to attorney approval.
John, aren't they always, is that a bad assumption to make? Or no? Can we have that be part of our, can we make that part of our city code?
I don't think you want it part of your
No?
city code for everything, no. If there are decent-sized policies that are run by us ahead of time, we can sit through and get it approved,
Maybe
thumbs
not
up.
policies, but maybe like contracts. I mean, we never really say subject. I'm assuming you've reviewed them if they're here on our agenda.
That's not necessarily accurate.
Okay. So would it be a good practice to say that our ordinance or resolution approving I don't know which it would be, a contract or an agreement?
If there's sizable
Stated
contracts.
every time on the agenda, subject to attorney review?
I mean, most of the time, we've seen a lot of the big things ahead of time and gone through it and reviewed it before it gets to the agenda.
Okay.
There's sometimes that is not necessarily the case.
Okay.
Well,
Those are the ones that we say, hey, let's make that subject to attorney review, and it's a,
but John, if you write it, if your company writes the agenda item for the, whatever I'm trying to say, item, you would say something, right? You'd say, wait a minute.
right. I mean, again, there's certain things that we do see ahead of time before it hits the agenda, some things we don't.
Okay. All right, there you have it. What else? To go on with the
Roll call?
warrants?
We need a roll call. We had a
We
motion.
need a roll
second.
call, please.
Okay, Alderman Messer.
Aye.
Alderman Williamson.
Aye.
Alderman Rosenthal.
What are we voting on now?
10B or 11, 12B.
Investment policy.
Before I cast my vote, I had raised some questions with Director Sharman and with Administrator Wade earlier today. Based upon that conversation, are there any things that you want to consider changing to it, to the investment policy?
That goes to Joe. That question?
Hmm?
Question goes to Joe?
Well, to Joe and to Mike.
Sure. Yeah, there were a few things. I think,
Well, one of the questions you raised is, you didn't like the wording, I think, or you were wondering if we could change the wording related to finance director and treasurer.
Correct.
The language you wanted to see was what, Larry?
Rather, right, the way it's worded now is or. I prefer to see it and.
So any place there is finance director or treasurer,
Should be.
and/or treasurer, should be and treasurer.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with that. Rich, I don't want to speak for you. Do you have an issue with that?
Rich fell asleep.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then,
You know, the ordinance got amended, is it an ordinance or resolution?
Resolution.
Resolution. It was amended based on no mention of the treasurer last time. So I thought it was important to be able to include the treasurer in having an ability to act in concert with the investment policy, obviously. It wouldn't be the treasurer or the finance director, for that matter, just taking some autocratic actions. So I don't see the reasons why you would say finance director and treasurer. It would have to be, I would think it could be more.
but then that means that the finance director or the treasurer
Yeah.
can act on his or her own.
Correct.
And
Straight ahead.
It's a backup to each other. I mean, let's say, I mean, either Michael or I may not be here forever, and if we have to work together all the time, then that
But it doesn't
encumbers
mention you as a
the
person.
ability to act.
It mentions the position.
It says, if you're changing the word from or to and, then it means that both of us have to act at the same time.
Both of those who occupy that position.
Yeah, right.
In the future, it's going to be somebody else.
Correct. And
Okay.
it's tying hands together rather than allowing independent hands to work in behalf of the city's investment policy. I don't see the problem. I really don't get it.
I would only
I think
raise
it's smart.
one issue, and please, I will listen to any other side of it. Number one, we're trying to take something, a process, and make it as efficient as possible. The more people I have to go around to get them to say it's okay for me to purchase a certificate of deposit is not an efficient process. And Rich was in no way, shape, or form ever stepping into that process.
Right.
Now, all I'm trying to do is, number one, get a policy adopted so that the council understands what the policy is. I will provide you any backup, any reports that you're looking for to show you that we went out to get competitive bids for any investment I'm buying. But on the other hand, in the time that I'm here between Sherry and myself, we will work out an internal procedure so that each of us knows what's being purchased at any given time and what that process is, so that we have the necessary backup to give to the council.
But when that need comes up, it's not like something that happens in the blue. One day it's okay, and then the next day you got to do it. You know ahead of time, based upon the schedule of maturity and whatever, as to when you're going to have to do it.
Well, initially, to get the program started, it's not quite that easy. We have to go out and start that process to, number one, place the investments initially. Once the schedule's developed, yes, we know the maturities. Right now, if you ask to see a schedule, there are no maturities.
Well, that's,
Larry, can I make one point, I think? As you mentioned, in the future, Rich may not be the treasurer, it may be someone else, and it could be someone like a lot of the aldermen where they work 9 to 5, a 9 to 6 job, and for them to be able to get here after hours or whatever, because the city staff works the same hours that, a lot of us work, so to require both of them to have to to get together on all these matters, I mean, I kind of trust our.
Maybe I'm
CFO.
oversimplifying it, but I see this as a telephone call, where the finance director says, we've got this thing coming due, this is what our needs are, this is what I recommend that we should do. In a conversation with the treasurer, and then the treasurer says yes or no.
What happens if I don't get a hold of him and I'm here one day a week? I'm gonna wait another week and then go out and get quotes again in order to make that happen?
Or can I
And
suggest we
That's what happens.
simply go with what you have, and if it develops along the lines that the alderman is asking for, we can change it.
Well, I just want to make sure everyone is satisfied with what's happening, because if there's an issue from the beginning, the program's not going to be successful because somebody's going to find fault with it.
Well, but again, we can change things later if we have to.
Okay.
My recommendation is you stay with what you got, Alderman Rosenthal.
Okay.
And you can get back at it, it's not a 200-year deal that we're making here.
And I want to stress, with this, there's a record of the decision that was made too, so that can be reported back to the larger council and treasurer.
It's going to be a good program with or without you. Thank you.
Change what?
All right, I think we agreed, I hope we agreed. What's next, Joe?
We have to finish the roll call
Okay, what's the roll call?
on the vote to approve this item. We had a motion and a second, we're still finishing
Okay,
the
as
voting.
written. Okay.
Okay,
let's-
as written, okay. Alderman Williamson?
I don't know. I don't understand what just happened. I mean, I apologize, but I can't vote either way on this because I don't understand it yet.
I think that they're asking to approve the resolution as written.
Which we,
Mr. Mayor, or Mike, is there
Can
any
we-
need for this to be passed this meeting? Can we wait 2 weeks?
Can we table it?
Sure, if you want.
All right,
I just want you to be comfortable
right.
with it.
So that way everybody will be comfortable when
That's what I'd like.
All right,
I'd like to make a
motion-
motion to table
motion,
that.
thank you. Second,
Meeting.
Second,
we have a motion and a second to table the issue. Roll call, please.
Alderman Messer?
aye.
Alderman Rosenthal?
Aye.
Alderman Ludwigson?
Aye.
Alderman Williamson?
Motion passes 4-0. Now can we get to the warrants?
We need 12C still.
Yeah.
So finance tonight. Mike, could you discuss C, please?
Sure can. It's that time of the year that, based on the Truth in Taxation Act, that tonight I have to provide you with an estimate of the tax levy that we're proposing for 2018 to be collected in 2019. I provided you with another cover of a memo simply because I had drafted the memo and then changed the worksheet. So I had a couple numbers in my initial memo that were inaccurate, and that is why I corrected it before the meeting. If I could get you to turn to the schedule, I just need to find mine that was attached to the memo. It's showing that our total tax levy is expected to be reduced by 2.55%. Looking at the top of the page, the special service area number 6 and the debt service referendum or the street bonds, there is no tax levy that has to be adopted. Those tax levies were prepared by the bond ordinances when those two bonds were created. The police pension tax levy has been increased by 4.5%, assuming that there will be an increase in CPI, and hopefully there's new construction that's being added to the tax extension so that we can attempt to grow the police pension levy, which is still far short of what our total police pension obligation is. Also, special service areas number 1, 2, 3, and 4, again, are being shown as zeros. That is based on the fact that we created the sewer bill to replace the taxes that were being generated by Special Service Area 1, 2, 3, and 4. John, I had posed the question to Kevin last week. I had sent him an email and asked him if it is still necessary for us to continue to show those tax levies as zero. I mean, now that we've had 1 year as a zero, the county realizes there's no tax levy. It's going to be subject to property tax extensions or the property caps that are out there. If we're drafting it as a zero, do we need to pass an ordinance each and every year? It's easy enough to do. I just don't know if technically we need to do it. Lastly, for special service areas number 5 and 8, those levies that are showing out there for $25,000 and for $128,916 respectively are basically just to cover the expenses associated with those two special service areas out there. Special service area number 8, the amount was reduced by $100,000 from the previous year because there was one final payment out there that had to be made between the special service area and the city of Prospect Heights. Showing a total proposed tax levy out there of $2,067,882. As I said, a decrease of 2.55%. This point in time, that is only an estimate. If we elect to change them, we are able to do that. We do have to prepare an estimate, though, at this meeting. If it is okay, or if you concur with what I'm showing here, we will draft the tax levy ordinances for first reading at the next meeting, with second reading to be approved on December the 10th. That's all.
Questions, please? Mike, you did a superb job, because nobody has any questions. All right, so we need a motion to do that? Is that the next step, Counselor? Even though it's a first reading?
Yes, please.
Yes. Let's have a motion to approve everything that Michael just said.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further questions, suggestions, or comments? There being none, we will take a roll call.
Okay, Alderman Williamson,
Aye.
Alderman Rosenthal.
Aye.
Alderman Messer. Aye. Alderman Ludwigson.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
No, that's just the expenditure.
What's next? Waiting for the warrants patiently, but
Yes,
quickly.
okay. So, expenses this period, regular expenses in the amount of $307,597.02. October 26, 2018 payroll posting in the amount of $161,304.44. November 9, 2018 payroll posting in the amount of $134,089.20. U.S. bank debt service payments in the amount of $1,406,018.75. October Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund payment of $19,028.26. Police pension payments of $41,501.31. And Viva Police Retirement Health Savings of $19,261.06. Total warrants, the amount of $2,088,800.04.
Motion to approve as presented.
So move.
We have a second? We have a second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Williamson.
Aye.
Alderman Ludwigson.
Aye.
Alderman Messer.
Aye.
Alderman Rosenthal.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Public comments, we have none.
No, we have none.
Executive session is not planned.
I would like to request an executive session, please. To discuss personnel.
I'll make your motion, please.
So move.
Oh, he said he would like to do that. So would you put that
I'd
in
like to make a formal
affirmative?
motion requesting an executive session to discuss personnel.
Thank you, Alderman Williamson, and we have a second by Alderman Rosenthal.
Second.
We do. Okay, then, if there Being no other comments, let's have a roll call to go into executive session.
Alderman Williamson.
Aye.
Alderman Messer. Alderman Ludwigson. Alderman Rosenthal.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.